Thank you all for joining us and welcome to Fashion Roundtable Talk hosted by Ginger, Nichelle, and the Elle Royalty Clothing team. Since there are no fashion shows or live events this year due to COVID, we wanted to get together with some of our favorite fashion industry insiders and discuss their careers and lives in the fashion world. Today, hopefully, our viewers will get a look at the various jobs involved with fashion, from designing for your own label to costuming and special effects. So without further ado, let's get started. So we're going to start with introductions, and I'll kick it off with Ginger.
Thank you, Lindsay, so much for that intro. And welcome back. My name is Ginger Nichelle, the owner and creator of Elle Royalty Clothing, a clothing brand inspired by Barbie, Harajuku fashion, and all things pink and cute. So I have actually been working in the fashion industry probably close to 10 years. I always say a little bit more if you include my internships that I was not paid for. So about that amount of time, I mainly have stuck to the technical design and production side of fashion, but I have worked in other aspects, a little bit of design. I've done toy design, which is, I know, also random. I've done licensing, and, you know, on the other side of that, I've done a multitude of just random gigs that kind of come up, whether it be costuming, pattern making, sewing. My brand is actually relatively new. I've really only had it for 3 years now, but it's just a lot of work, and I didn't really want to rush into it. But all that before that, I was costuming on the side, which we'll kind of get into later. Talk to everyone else. And you know, right now I work at a costume shop / dance studio, and we make light up costumes and dancewear for the dancers, which is a lot of fun. Yeah, so that's me, and I will pass it over to Bex, since she's on my right on my screen anyway. Pass it over to Bex.
Hi. So I guess I have been in the industry for about 10 years as well. I went to trade school for sewing, and it just kind of went from there. I did an internship in costuming, and I costumed for a while, and then my mentor that I had ended up opening a small-scale production facility that I worked at. So I started in costuming and went into small freelance custom. I do tailoring. Kind of like my goal in the industry, or just like in my life doing this, has been to learn how to do everything, so that I can, or it's just interesting. So anyway, I worked as a sample maker at UV for 3 years with Lahita and now I am on a spacesuit team at SpaceX, but like, besides saying that I work there, I can't talk about it right now.
That's fine. I won't bring up any details or put you in that position at all.
Okay, cool. Let me move to Rashawn. You want to do your intro? Why are you making that? I'm going in order of the boxes.
No, I'm just kidding. So my name is Rashawn Wilson. I've been working professionally for 6 years. I've kind of always wanted to do costume design for film and television, which is what I moved here for. I've worked with a lot of like entertainment, live performance, like the Haunted Hayride, and also with Fortnite, leading their creative team to do the costumes for the live events. And then I also got to work with Ginger with Illuminate, working on those wearable technology and dancing and stuff, which has been really cool. And a lot of the gigs that I've gotten some stuff that's been on TV. Still trying to get those union hours though, you know, that gate that they keep you away with. But yeah, so that's basically it. I mean, I do illustration, pattern making, fabrication, and some, I guess, armor working too as well. And that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, he's really modest. He's also done drag in the past. He has also made costumes for the dance moms people. He's also made like couture for all these little pageant girls. Like he just really
Uh,
wants to be humble, but I
well, thank you. Yes, I have plenty of experience. I've probably made 1,000 costumes in the past 6 years.
probably more than that. Really, probably more than that. You probably made that's 1,000 sleeves that you made because you never keep a sleeve pattern for some reason.
Yes, the daunting sleeve.
We just can't keep a sleeve. I don't know why. Me and Rashawn always lose our sleeve patterns, and then we end up repeating them, and then we find them out.
Yeah, and you know what? I just like to make a new one every time anyway, because I want to be sure that it's right.
But with that, all right, I'll pass it over to Ingo. So Ingo, you want to give us your introduction?
Happy Saturday to everyone. I'm sure you guys are already here and ready to begin, unlike me, who's oversleeping a alarm. But anyway, so I have been in the industry now for about 13 years. And I guess selling clothing like in boutiques and having commerce actually set up for about 10. So for the first 3 years, I was kind of coasting, trying to get my foot. But I did not go to school for fashion. My degrees are in business. And I was actually a professor for a while in business as well. But moving out to LA 7 years ago, I decided to go full-time, or as full-time as I could, I guess, go with fashion. And it's been interesting because it's opened up a completely different client base for me. It's allowed me to get a studio space and kind of actually go full-time all the way foot out of academia and corporate America. So it's been really good. And since I've been here, still selling clothing like in boutiques and on my website, but also it kind of opened up the gate to being able to style on a lot of different projects. So, movie stuff, TV stuff. It's been interesting doing some stuff with had some reality folks and kind of here slowly getting into some movie, music, video stuff. So it's been a winding road to get to that.
And Ingo is also going to be making my bridesmaid dresses. So that's why I have Ingo. You look at my bridesmaid dresses. I was supposed to happen this year, but COVID.
I know.
So
and that's COVID. It's been so crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, so there's Ingo. Thank you. We'll move on to Carl. If you can tell us about yourself a little bit.
Hi everybody, how y'all doing tonight?
Hi.
Let me see. Been in the business, the proverbial business, for I would say about 5 years, maybe, give or take, more or less. Yeah, moved here from Boston, where there wasn't much of a demand for any of that sort of thing, except for during Halloween. And then I moved to LA in 2017, where things just seemed to flourish into full bloom for costume design. Yeah, it kind of took off overnight, it would seem. No formal educational background in fashion or costume, entirely self-taught. Had a brief career in theatrical puppetry, doing like large-scale puppets for different shows and cabarets, and that was a fun start. Got to kind of learn everything all in one through that. There's also a background in special effects and prosthetic makeup. Yeah, a whole lot of that. And yeah, as of now, I run the Plastique Boutique out of Koreatown, out of my place in Koreatown, where we cater to everyone from bridal, drag, prom, the occasional music video, the occasional celebrity photo shoot, mermaid tales. So there's a little bit of everything in there. It's a big glittery operation.
I love it. I love it. But I mean, hey, I'm gonna hit up for that mermaid tail because I mean, I, just, you know, I want to be a mermaid.
You already are a mermaid, Ginger.
You are.
Look at that iridescent on your mannequin back.
Yes, honey. When you get in the water, the tail comes like in Splash.
Yeah. So, I love it. I love it. And then last but not least, yeah, my sassy sister.
My name's Lee. My name's Lehia. I have been in the industry a little over 10 years because I am counting my unpaid internships and shitty jobs. Okay, I'm owning that. It's experience. So I've pretty much done everything from like showroom assisting, production assisting. I've been a technical designer. I'm currently a hybrid pattern maker and technical designer. What else have I done? Wedding consultations. I've just all sorts of, I've dabbled here and there. I've worked in licensing also. So that's kind of my background. I went to Cal State Northridge like Ginger did. I graduated a year after her. We never crossed paths, according to her. She didn't know me.
Hey, I think all friends, right?
I don't know her.
She had a Mariah Carey moment. She's like, I don't know her. I'm joking. I'm joking. We just never crossed paths. It was a big school. But yeah, so that's me in a nutshell. I've had a lot of different jobs in the industry for a while, and here I am. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. My name's Lindsay. I've been in the industry for about a little over 5 years now. I started out in fashion design and worked with Ginger. She taught me a lot of what I know about design, especially technical design and fitting. And recently I've transitioned into a merchandising role and working in brand strategy. And I have a lot of experience in licensed properties. So that is my experience. Thank you all for joining us today. So we kind of touched on all of the different jobs that you have held in the industry over the years of your experience. What have you found is the biggest misconception? Maybe when you told your friends or family or just random people what your title was or what you were working on, what they thought you did versus what your actual day-to-day was. For example, in merchandising, I travel a lot to different retailers to show off the collections, and people here traveling for fashion, showing collections that I'm like, my life is just a fashion show runway every day. And it's not that. It's a lot of red-eye flights and Holiday Inns and continental breakfasts and meeting with Kohl's and your average retailer that is not looking for high fashion or anything like that. They're looking for a basic t-shirt, and so it's not as glamorous as people imagine. So I'll kick it off with Ginger, and then we can go from there.
Let's see. I'd say the big misconception is that fashion is very easy. And I think having a fashion brand is easy. A lot of people think that because I think people think that even though my brand is new, it's like I've been working in the industry for a long time and I went to school and studied this. So there's been a lot of work into it. And I think when people see the results and they see it look professional, or they're like, oh, you went to New York Fashion Week, like I'm gonna start a brand like tomorrow. I'm like, okay. I mean, it took me 10 years to kind of figure out, but sure. But I think it's that misconception that it's just, like you said, like very glamorous, very easy. They see a runway show, or they show you, a photo shoot, or, you made something and it's like, oh, that's so cool. Like, like I'm going to start a brand. I'm going to have a, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, well, do you know about the customer? Do you know about pricing? Do you know about sizing? Do you know about grading? Do you know about construction? Do you know about silhouettes, mood boards, seasons? And they're like, what? I was like, okay, start with these 3 books and read those 3 books. And then if you still want to start a fashion brand, you can ask me for another 5 books I can recommend you to, because I mean, that's really what it is. Like, it's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of putting your art out there and making sure you can sell it to somebody and selling your soul and your art to other people. And it's tough. So I would say the big one is people think it's easy. It's not easy. There's a lot of nights where I am up all nights or weeks before a fashion show, up all night, sewing all night, crying, wondering why I didn't just go into medical like my mom did. You know, so there's a lot of things I think about. So I would say that's, for me, that's a big one that I get kind of like, okay, I mean, I understand you want to have a fashion brand, but let's bring it back and like really think about it. If you just want to like, hey, I want to make a dress and put it on Etsy, go ahead, make a dress, put it on Etsy. But I'm like, if you're really like, no, I want to make a fashion brand, like I want to do what you do, I'm like, that's a process. That's not a 24-hour turn time thing. So I would say that's one of them. Anybody else want to jump in and say?
I have a question for you, Ginger.
Yeah.
When you give people that advice, do people ever think that you're coming off as like a hater? Like, well, you need to have A, B, C, and D. And then they're like, oh, you just squashed my dreams type of thing. Like, just wondering if that ever's happened to you, because I know it's happened to me, and I have just kind of a straight out like nature to me. Like, I'm very straightforward, where I don't want to waste your time.
Yeah.
But also my knowledge isn't free.
Yeah.
So if I recommend something to you, like, has that ever happened to you where they're like, well, thanks for shitting on me, you know?
I mean, I have gotten that before, but I tell them that I try to like reinforce that it's not just that I don't want to give the information, because I don't think I have some golden cup of knowledge. Like, I feel like I have some knowledge, I can share it with you. I don't think you can kind of Google it, whatever. But I want to give you the steps to go in the right direction, because there's a lot more to it than just creating a design. There's a whole business part of it. So a lot of things even that I recommend are business books to like owning a business, like having the right licenses, having the right, getting a seller's permit, like so you can do wholesale if you want to do that. Or, I more try to tell them like, read this and then come back to me with questions, because then at least I know that you're serious about it, and either you're building a business plan, even if it's not like a perfect business plan, but having some kind of plan instead of just kind of throwing it out into the universe and hoping it sticks. So that has happened a couple of times, and sometimes they actually do come back and say like, oh, thanks for the advice. I actually picked up the book and whatever. Sometimes I can tell it kind of turned them off, but I mean, I don't want what I did might not work for the next person. You know what I'm saying? Like, what I did to build my brand, if somebody's doing t-shirts, okay, well, having a clothing, like dresses and tops and bottoms, whatever brand, isn't going to be the same as having a t-shirt brand. It's totally different. So I try to explain it that way, but I have gotten that kind of like, oh, you're a know-it-all type of, you're just holding information.
Yeah.
I just want you to understand.
The idea, I think, of people thinking that having someone give them the knowledge and say like, hey, look, it's not that easy, just solidifies that people think that fashion is easy.
Yeah.
It's like you need to read these books. You need to work for 10 years before you know even this much. Like, every single day, I feel like I learned something monumental that I'm like, how did I ever live without this knowledge before? Like, you got to read those books. You got to have those things.
Yeah.
Maybe like, well, fuck you for shitting on my dreams because you told me to do some research. Like, well, we all we paid our dues. We went to school.
I wanted to piggyback on what Ginger was saying. Like, it's also, I don't think that people understand that it's not as glamorous as it looks. And just because we're in Hollywood doesn't mean we're all making it and making tons of money. And also there's a production. Like, people don't get that it takes hundreds of talented people to put together even just one dress or look when you think about it. And even myself in learning that and having been all those roles and having to do that, because what I've learned here, and it was kind of I was a little sheltered, I guess. I just assumed if you were talented and hardworking that you would make it, and that's not necessarily how it goes. And a lot of times I found the more talent you have, the more you can get used, and the expectation is, oh, okay, we found a, you know, a one production person that can do all these roles, and so we're gonna have them do all those roles and pay them half of what one person's role would be. And yeah, so for me, it was like a little bit of a rude awakening of how many people will use you, and I don't I know it was my own fault, so I'm not like super like, oh my God, I came here and people just you know, used me and treated me bad. I was just eager, you know, to prove that I was worthy. So yeah, I think people need to consider that it's not for the faint of heart, and unless you have a disposable income, being in this field, you have to really love it because it will chew you up and spit you out for real.
I'll say, like, as a business person too, I think that's the number one mistake that I see young creatives, whether it's fashion or any other creative field. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I see them make is not considering the business ramifications of whatever choice they decided to make as far as it, you know, as far as fashion is pertains to. Like, it's just, I feel like that's one of the elements that a lot of creatives need to, like somebody said, you have to get your paperwork in order, the business licenses, the SBA, they need to be your best friend if they're just starting out, you know, whatever grants, loans, whatever are, you know, available to you, those kinds of things, a business plan, something, like some sort of framework needs to be worked out because you can have an amazing amount of talent and you can love what you do and you can, you know, have all these hopes and dreams, but if you don't really have a clear plan for where you kind of want to go for the trajectory of what you want your brand to be, then I think you kind of do yourself a disservice. And so that's why I think I always find myself remiss, especially talking to like younger designers, if they say like, oh, I want to do a clothing line or a fashion brand or something like that. That is the number one thing I say. Ginger throws the books at them. I throw them links to the, you know, SBA, to the grants, to the loans, to all of the organizations that they need to kind of have in their back pocket to make a business out of it. It's great and I love it, but I'm also a businesswoman. And Ginger's laughing because I'm always talking about the bottom line.
Yeah. Where the check?
Where's the check? Okay. So I'm always talking about that. And I think that that's so important to have creatives know because it's great when you find something that you love and you put it all into it, but it's only right that you can actually make a living from it. Because it's only so far being a private artist can take you. You know, it's only so far you can like sustain that and do that without like driving yourself nuts. So I think the best way to avoid doing that 20 years down the road is to kind of set up the framework from the very beginning. And so I know for sure I turn people off all the time for that because I'm always throwing so much information and I'm like, but you need this stuff. So yeah.
Definitely, I think that a good first point of advice that kind of all of you are touching on is protecting yourself in this industry and kind of being aware of what you're entering yourself into and kind of safeguarding yourself. And sometimes you do have to fall and stumble and make those mistakes and learn from that. But if you can protect your heart, protect your art and creativity, but also legally protect yourself and make sure that you know your worth, know what your time is worth, know what your experience as you build it is worth, and so on and so forth. That is definitely the most valuable advice I have seen that rings true that all of you touched on. So I definitely agree with everything you guys are saying. You all have really immense and amazing pattern making and kind of couture costuming, special effects, beautiful fashion when you think about the inception of the fashion industry and kind of taking it back to its roots and things like that. So I do want to ask you what's the biggest lesson you've learned, but in particular to pattern making, I think that it's something that is such a taboo topic for the general consumer, and it is something that, you know, humans who wear clothes every day are affected by so much. So I did want to ask you specifically, what's the biggest thing you've learned or biggest takeaway you've had from the process of learning pattern making and working with pattern making in each of your roles? So whoever just wants to jump in.
For me in particular, I usually freehand a lot of stuff. Like I'm very just like a kid in a candy store. When I get a certain fabric, I just want to use it right away and jump right into it. And it's been a journey learning the meticulous nature of patterning and getting everything right. One of the biggest things I'm currently learning now is pretty much how to cater to everybody. I don't feel like I would be a valid brand owner if I didn't make stuff that could fit everybody out there. I would think that if I can't design for everybody, then I'm in the wrong field entirely. And I see brands out here that make beautiful clothes, but they don't produce stuff that people above a certain size can wear. So the way I see it, I'm like, if there's paper, if there's a ruler, guess what? There's a pattern for a size out there above what you're used to making. So kind of just tilting the whole size game on its axis and opening up the fashion that I make to just a plethora of bodies, of sizes, of physiques. Like that's been probably the most enjoyable recent experience of mine because I'm so used to making stuff for drag queens who, you know, they usually prefer stuff with stretch or they usually cinch themselves, but it's like there are people out there who don't expand or alter their bodies. Like they want stuff that fits them as they are, and it's important to bear them in mind when you're creating stuff. Bear them in mind when you're promoting imagery of your work. Like as a consumer, I constantly don't see myself represented in stuff, and I don't want my consumers to feel that way. So yeah, definitely keeping in mind the different sizes. Like I think that's been the biggest takeaway of the patterning game for me.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's really great because there is that, like, you know, there's plus, but then it'll be kind of like that. It's like only 3 sizes. You know what I mean? And like most stores,
It goes up to 2X.
Yeah, 2X, maybe 3X. You know, and then you know there's only certain amount of stores that cater to plus size, you know, men and women like only. Like that's even that's like, you know, few and far between and things like that. So I'm trying to change that as well. I do offer plus size in my store. I'm making a plus size capsule collection that's just for plus size women and femmes. So like that's what I'm wanting to expand on that as well because, you know, I mean, why not? I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
people out here, I mean, I have big boobs, so I'm used to like,
Hello.
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't realize. I don't realize until I see it in a photo, and then I see how big my boobs are. I really don't think my boobs are that big until I see it. So I like having to work around these girls. I'm kind of like, okay, well, I have friends, you know, that may have like a 60-inch hip or something like that. Like I want to learn how to fit that and work with that. So I totally agree. That's a really good one.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna piggyback on what Carlo, is it Carlo Jacobs? What you were saying about the sizing, because my background was in more of a contemporary market, and so in that market you see the exclusion of a certain type of customer. So my background originally was in very straight sizes, you know. At some companies I was even too big for the clothes that I was making, me being a size 8 or 10, you know. And so when I started working at the current company that I'm at, where I met Ginger and Bex, it was a total learning curve because we actually do 1X through 5X, and it's a different customer that has its own needs, has its own wants and desires for how this garment is going to look and fit on them, and they deserve a high quality product just as much as a straight size does. And so you know, it definitely has its own learning curve. You know, I've had a lot of hits and a lot of misses, but it's all, you know, it's all knowledge that you take and you carry on to the next and the next and the next. And so So yeah, so it's definitely just getting to learn this different customer that shouldn't have ever been excluded. And if you as a brand were to exclude them, you're missing out on a large demographic with a lot of potential revenue from them. You know what I mean? So I think that was a great point that you made for the plus sizing.
The revenue
Because,
and like, yeah, I was saying like missing out on the revenue and just the knowledge, just like the growth experience
exactly.
of it all as a designer. Like you're doing yourself a disservice as well as potential clientele.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I just wanted to chime in with pattern making. I think what people don't understand necessarily, or for novices, and just pattern making is essential, and knowing it is the difference between being a professional and not. And I know for me, once I learned even pattern making one, like being able to communicate through patterns, like totally changed my entire ability. Like I was able to get really professional jobs through pattern making. And also I think that for people to understand like patterns, like people don't necessarily get that what they're buying in the store, the process that those patterns have gone through the different fits, through the fit models, through like, you know, them wanting it to be a certain way, to adding a pocket or to adding, you know, zippers or something fancy. All of those things that go into actually making clothes. And even before school, I didn't even know all of that went into making clothing, and at least making good clothing. And like after having the first pattern making class, just knowing even with notches, being able to make things line up that I could never line up before. Yeah, those things were really, really important. And another thing that I learned when I did pattern making, it actually really helps me with my figure drawing and other areas of art, because I now have an understanding of like the body in 3D, more so than when I went to school for illustration. So I definitely say that pattern making is like one of the number one things to me in this field for success.
One of the things I wanted to add when it comes to pattern making and like a general like a brand where you know you have your pattern and you grade it up and down is so like I have done lots of custom and tailoring. So one of the things that I hear from every single tailoring client I've ever had goes, "I'm sorry, I have a weird body," and it's like, no, you don't. You just weren't the fit model for this brand.
Right.
And so that's why the necessity for like alteration specialists exists. But being able to talk to my custom clients and like talk to people about why this pair of Levi's doesn't fit you the way it fits the lady on TV has been so helpful. And it helps like that little bit of knowledge helps the people who are wearing these clothes and like feeling self-conscious, like going through this whole like fashion industry self-sabotage sort of thing, feel better about why they don't look as good or why they don't think that they look as good in the clothes. Oh, sorry, my dog is like fine.
Yeah, you're good.
No, and I think, you know, everyone makes a good point about the pattern making. I mean, I'll tell you, when I first pattern making, I thought I was going to love draping over flat pattern making. But then I had a draping teacher that was very mean. So I didn't like draping when I was in school. My pattern making teacher was very mean. And then when I went to university, it was a lot better because I was like, oh, well, she's really nice. But I think like you were saying, like everyone's saying, it's really essential whether you're pattern making, draping, whatever you're doing. It just because it helps, you know, it helps fit on the body properly. And like Carl was saying, if you got paper and a ruler, like you can make clothes for anybody. It doesn't matter where your body is, or you know, tall, short, petite, plus whatever. It can be done. You know, and I think like you mentioned, it's like it depends on the fit model, you know, like sometimes, yeah, you might be different sizes from, you know, like Forever 21 and you know, maybe Zara, but maybe they're about the same. You know, you might be different sizes and different companies' clothes or different brands' clothes, but that's because they're using a certain type of model. They might be using a small, they might be using a medium. Forever 21 for a long time used an extra small. It was really annoying. And they called it a medium, but yeah. I think it does help to actually have that core skill of looking either at a flat pattern or draping and being able to imagine the final garment and putting it together and having it fit and looking at measurements and, measuring things 3 or 4 times because, I'm crazy. I mean, I want a program on the computer. That's what I want. So one day I'm gonna have that, so I don't have to keep making things by hand. I can just
Oh my God, I'm the opposite. I want to draw it all day.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm that way when it comes to clothes. I want to draw my clothes with my markers and my watercolors.
I want to draw it on and then have to add the seam allowance. It's like,
No,
Girl, you do that for a few hours and then you'll be
oh my God. Seam allowance is the worst.
Yeah, no, you'll be begging for a pattern software after doing that for a few hours. That shit is awful. I worked at a job. I worked at a job where I literally lost feeling in my pinky toe because I was standing so long and I didn't have a mat beneath me. And I was like, what is this? I can't feel my finger, but like flat pattern or like manual patterns and pattern making on a system is night and day. I mean, obviously it's user's choice, whatever you prefer, but the time I save doing it on the computer, oh my God, I tell you, like I could do 10 things in the time it takes to do one manual. So try it out.
I'll save it up.
How about you, Ingo? So your education was in business and then you pivoted into fashion and now you make custom gowns and dresses and you have your own line and everything. How was that transition for you when you were learning some of those trades?
For me, I think it was probably the most time-consuming part of everything because, I came into it knowing the other side of it and then kind of trying to learn the other side of it that my peers were in school learning about. So it was started off on the college dorm room floor, just like cutting up material, buying other patterns, manipulating them, trying to figure out like, oh, okay, that works that way, so I'll remember that the next time. And literally just trying to figure it out, cutting and drawing a little bit, cutting around the decimal marks, and then making my own patterns and then saving those and then using those for later to try to do like grading for different size clients or, for whatever collections coming up. So I felt like it was definitely frustrating because I know that there's a better way to do it than the way I started out. But it's like I was halfway through another business degree, so it was like, well, I'm not gonna stop now and then go to fashion school. So it just, it didn't make sense for me to stop in the middle. But I think now, years later, like now it's different because I've been exposed to so much more. So now you can see the right way of doing things. And then like P. Diddy said, just take somebody to do it. So, but I mean, I think definitely I still wish I would have, well, I mean, I still might, go to get like a fashion certificate or something just to kind of get somewhere and learn the fundamentals, even though I'm not necessarily making every single thing for my brand anymore. But that's still something that I as a perfectionist would, like to know.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, those are all really good points. I know I definitely, learning about fashion definitely made me feel so much better about my body and, all of the frustrating times going into a store and not being able to find something that fit or, be able to buy the thing I thought was cute on the hanger, but not really for my body type. Yeah. So that definitely, when I started working in fashion, it just it seemed so obvious and just kind of clicked. And I know a lot of people have that same kind of epiphany. So pivoting into COVID. So obviously our industry, working in corporate fashion and having a lot of experience in this industry, I'm sure you all were aware of a lot of different changes that were happening even before COVID. And now this whole year has kind of been upended. What's one of the biggest things you've kind of learned? How has your career been affected, and what's going to be one of your biggest takeaways right now that you think looking back on this time? So whoever wants to start.
I'll say pivoting, how important being able to pivot is, or I mean, anybody's able to pivot, but how important it is to be able to be willing to pivot in your business if you have to. That could really be the difference between your business surviving and thriving, or between you becoming, unfortunately, a statistic, one of the small businesses that have had to shut down. That was the one thing that I for sure learned from this, like as a takeaway. Because when COVID first started, quarantine and all that, of course, all of the people that were having weddings, Ginger included, like I was gonna make her bridesmaid dresses. I was like wrapping up and bagging so much material and just putting it in the other rooms because it's like, okay, we don't even know what's gonna happen now. And so then it's like, now what? So I think about all of the, the design colleagues that I have that, they didn't have any other option. There was nothing else for them to be like, oh, well, I can just make this instead, And so I think I myself, for my brand, I pivoted to making the face masks and donating one for each one that we sold. So that was a way to kind of keep things going and to still employ people and keep up the team and everything. So that was like a whole, thing. But the word of this year for me for sure has been pivot. If you don't know what you would do in case you have to pivot, I would say you need to figure that out.
Being adaptable is extremely important. This industry, or I mean, many industries, but we're specifically ours. You can really never expect what's going to come next.
Right.
And if you can't roll with the punches, you're gonna go under. You're gonna go under. So being able to adapt to what's happening around you is super important. And I think that we've all learned that. Some, maybe harshly over others, but.
Yeah, very true. I mean, because now because I moved out of like the fashion industry as my day job and do more costume. And it's live entertainment. So we were going to open a show in Vegas in April. Spent all of February making it. Ingo came to the shop, helped me for a little bit until she got busy, and then Rashawn took over and helped me as kind of like my second lead, which was just like so good because there was no way we could make all those costumes in 28 days. It was February. But there was no way a whole like 30 costume production was going to happen if I didn't have help. But since after that, it kind of was like, I guess I was one of the naive people maybe that thought like, oh, this will only happen like a couple weeks, a month, whatever, we'll get back to that. When that didn't happen, I just, kind of just started looking on, I started making masks for myself, and then I kind of, for making masks for my store, and, sold some to friends, family, well, made some for family, not sold them, but made some, donated some, and then I found a gig sewing hair bundles for somebody's small business, so I started doing that. But I think it helped that, I never thought I'd be sewing hair. I mean, I never thought that was going to be a thing, but doing that even is just helping, a little bit, just because I'm out of work on my day job. So it allowed me in a sense to focus more on my clothing brand and like what I want to do, and do a lot of back end work that I was putting on the back burner because of this, that, or the other. So I think, the time off has helped me take time to really think about what I want, what I want and how I will get there, because there's a lot of me in my mind saying, yes, this is what I want to do. I wanted to do it since I was like 8 years old. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, now I have the time to actually sit and make a plan and write it out and follow these steps, as opposed to just like, okay, I'll, make a collection, do a thing, whatever. I'm like, okay, let me actually sit and do it. And it's been good because I've been able to hire a couple interns and stuff that handle my social media, and I, meet with them and everything. So I love that because they're all so great and help me out. So I think like Ingo was saying and Bex was saying, like just being able to change with and just kind of I roll with it. Like they say, like it just kind of happens that way. And
Good job sewing hair. You sew the hair.
yeah.
Like, that's what you do.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would do, but I mean, it just came along.
I thought we would have made money making masks. Like,
Yeah. I mean, and it's just because we were, and it's great because we were able to use the skills that we have to like continue on. You know, it wasn't.
Exactly.
Well, I didn't do shit.
Well, you
I
needed
needed the
a break.
break.
Yeah, well, you
I
needed
have slaved and I have been in survival, like the sewing mask, all the stuff people were doing to like survive this thing are things I've just done my entire career. And when this COVID thing happened, I mean, I feel sorry for those who it was negative for. I needed the break. I didn't do anything for, I think, until the Emmys, working on the hazmat costumes for the Emmys. But all those other months, I was like, nope. Everybody was like, oh, Rashawn, you should make masks. And, you know, a lot of my friends made several $1,000s making masks, getting stuff from like hospitals and things that were still open, being able to make masks and like hair covers and things like that. And for me, it just allowed me to like kind of sit back and focus on me and kind of collect myself, because for 6 years straight, I've been creating and working for others solely. And it just also kind of reminded me of me and my initial dreams and the things that I really wanted to do. And it also allowed me to see that I was overworking. You know, I put myself, you know, in a lot of situations, and I kind of felt like, you know, I had to. You know, it's like, you know, the bills got to be paid, and you take the gig knowing you're going to be shafted. Um, but I learned this year, and then through what's happened with COVID, that like that was just me in my head, and that I didn't necessarily have to put myself through that, and that generally the universe wants your best, has your best interests at hand. Like, you know, the great all being, or whatever you want to call it, or whatever you believe in, wants to see us succeed. And so with this happening, it helped me to realize that like, you know, I'm not forced to do anything, and I don't have to slave to make things happen. And I really enjoyed a much needed break.
Yeah.
That's a good perspective.
That is.
Yeah.
Definitely just as needed as, you know.
I think we all probably overwork ourselves.
Yeah, it's weird because, like, for me, I was prepared to not be expected to do anything. Like, as soon as I heard that everything was shutting down and that all of downtown was closed, I was like, all right, now it's me time. And I got more orders for stuff than I expected. Like, even though all my Coachella clients canceled, even though all my Burning Man clients canceled, even though all my EDM festival clients canceled, like, I was still getting like a lot of private custom orders for drag queens who were performing from home, people who were having like really remote weddings. I was still doing wedding dresses. Like I was envious of people who, like, not envious, but like I wanted some time to not do anything, and I had the choice not to. But it's just such a reflex to like get in the DMs and like schedule everything and be like, sure, when's your deadline? So yeah, this was a very like busy several months. Yeah, I don't think there was a point at which I really had the ability to stop creating anything or stop working on anything. There was like a very small, literally 2-week window where I didn't hear from any clients. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna finish all those projects, and I dug out costumes that I started and didn't finish like over a decade ago and finished those. But yeah, it was like, I feel like for designers, because a lot of our work tends to be remote, like because we do so much of it from home, that a lot of what was going on out in the world didn't necessarily affect us the same way. Like, we didn't have to be at as many places. We didn't have to leave our sewing desk to do very much. And yeah, for me, it was kind of just like a nonstop hustle. I feel like I was kind of, I don't know, I was fortunate, but also spoiled in that sense. Like, man, I wanted to not work, but I also wanted to still work. I don't know. It was
That's
so
a
bizarre.
really relatable
I
feeling.
love what I do. I don't want to not sew, but I kind of do.
But like, yeah, who doesn't want a mental break? You know what I mean? Like that sounds so nice, but I, like you, haven't stopped working. So, and I understand that. I say that from a place of privilege. We were notified to pack up our offices and work from home. So that's what I've been doing. And for me, the pivot came in having to do all of my fittings remotely. So we're on Zoom twice a week, 3 times a week, sometimes 4 times a week, because also with our shipments coming in at scattered times from overseas, we kind of have to like unpack the samples, hurry up and measure them, hurry up and get them back to the office. So it's a lot of coordinating, because we don't have the luxury of being at the office and just being like, oh, this arrived, okay, let me spec it, okay, we're gonna throw it on, so it's a lot of extra coordinating, a lot of extra detail. And again, it comes from a place of privilege. I haven't stopped working, thankfully, but I can relate to where a little bit of a break would have been nice. Like I was looking forward to that 3-day weekend. I was like, I look forward to the holidays. I'm like, give me Thanksgiving. That's gonna be a 4-day weekend. So,
Did you have something you wanted to say, Bex? I saw you kind of.
Oh, I was just heartily agreeing with everything that said. I mean, I lost my job during pandemic. It wasn't because of pandemic, it was just a downsizing thing, I think. But I did get a little break, and I felt guilty during my break in between getting hired at my new position. Like I felt lazy, I guess. I was just like, I'm not working. Like I've spent my whole life never taking any time off for any reason. So having 2 weeks of nothing, I was like, I'm a bum. What am I doing? I'm not achieving my goals.
I think to kind of find like the middle ground in what we're saying is that like rest is productive, right? Because we need to reset and recharge, and our industry demands us, or rather, it requires that we be workhorses. Like someone else said, we have to be all the things at once, in the one role. So I get it. Like it's true. Like we often do feel guilty for resting, and if you don't, good for you, because it's well deserved. It's well needed. You need, otherwise you face burnout, and then you can't be creative for anyone, especially not yourself. So I think in between there, I think the message is we should rest and not feel bad for it.
Definitely.
Right.
Oh, sorry. Go
got
ahead.
into this. We all got into doing this because we love being creative, And at some point, if it's not fun for us anymore, then what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
I reached that point. I burnt out. I straight burnt out. My sewing machine had 3 inches of dust on them. Like I didn't touch a single thing. I put everything in my attic. I was like, I don't want to see anything.
Good.
Like, it did kind of hurt because I didn't even want to do anything for myself. And then watching all these people be creative during this break, and I'm like, I didn't do a single thing, not even for myself. So yeah, it is important to find that balance, because you don't want to not like what you love doing. And I have reached that point, like to the point of even I didn't want to do, like, work in general was like the thought of doing anything, like it just had a bad feeling, like once you hurt yourself in that way. But I'm back, don't worry.
So I'm the opposite. I'm just gonna jump in. I miss going to the office. I always romanticized the idea of working from home, like through my 20s. I thought, oh, that'd be so great. But actually living in it, I mean, it's also a pandemic, so you've got to like work that in. Yeah. But having the boundaries between the office and your home is something I need. I have found that I need, because with my work being accessible to me 24/7, I have that in the back of my mind thinking I could be working right now. I could be working. Nothing's keeping me from walking into the other room and working on something right now on a Saturday night. Yeah. So for me, as just my personality type, I need that structure where I can separate my job from my home. And also the social component, like I miss my coworkers, I miss my boss. I want to be where the people are, like Ariel said.
I'm sure Ellie is still in there singing.
She is, and she's singing without me. We have karaoke on Fridays, and I want to be there. I miss champagne, so there's a social component that I don't get at home with my husband and my dogs, not to the same degree as with my colleagues. So for me, I'm just looking forward to, in the new normal, whatever the office is going to look like, however we're going to function in that new reality. But in the meantime, we're just kind of pivoting and going with it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the intimacy that is involved with fashion. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool that we can do things remotely and but I feel like fashion and even costume design or anything dealing with fashion, it's just something missing if you can't be in person. You know what I mean? Reach out and touch things, even for work-wise with measuring and with even just the celebration that you have after a fashion show or like a big production. That kind of ability I look forward to slaving, working hard on a good project, and then having a bomb wrap party or bomb wow, we did it, and celebrating that. And we don't have that anymore, and we don't even have the events, the things that make fashion. I feel like we got hit the hardest with that because all of our things are social type productions in a sense. So I'm ready for that. And plus I have nobody to show my new fashions in person with, you know what I mean? I didn't make this stuff to just be cute in the house.
Closet that I have made over the last few months that are on a hanger. I haven't even taken photos of them. Bad, right?
Because some stuff is in person. A photo can always,
Yeah.
No, I can relate. I'm at the point where I'm dressing up several of my mannequins and just doing a little fashion review in my living room, and just the cabin fever is real. I'll get up to go to the bathroom, and then in the middle of the night I'll be like, you know what? There's some ostrich feather in the back room. Let me just. And I just put on a little show for the mannequins in the living room. That's what my life is right now. I feel I feel like a toddler again, dressing up for all my dolls and my action figures. It's crazy. But yeah, I feel like our job, we're such tactile and hands-on people that having replaced all the intimacy and all the hands-on components of our work with these digital exchanges, I feel like we feel it in a very hard way. We feel the dramatic shift in our work and in our exchanges with people. And yeah, I feel like it's not even the work itself that's changed. I feel like it's the pandemic and how it's mentally affecting us, and the climate of the world affecting us as well. On top of the fact that we can't do our jobs the way we used to anymore. It's a lot. It's a lot for one person to process, and it's very unusual circumstances under which to process it. So the new normal, I'm looking forward to seeing everybody again. I'm looking forward to going back to the club when it's 100% safe and seeing all my drag queen friends turn their looks out every week. I want to tip my drag queens in person. I want to shake a dollar bill and give it to one of my queens.
Yes.
I don't want to Venmo them. I do. I want to support them, but there's no intimacy with Venmoing someone a tip for a digital drag show. It's not the same.
It's different when you see the face beat in person. It's very different than seeing it digitally.
You appreciate it so much more. It's like being at a museum and looking at a work of art. You can see it in person.
Yeah, we're doing what we can.
Yeah.
Keeps everybody safe.
Yeah.
You don't have to. And for me, kind of the same. I get some sort of inspiration and energy from being around other creatives, being in the same working spaces. And I find that being here just by myself, or just a couple of people helping, or just talking to seamstresses that are at their own locations, it's just different. I'm a really extrovert, I guess, sometimes, and I think getting that energy, that collaborative energy from other artists really helps me sometimes. And then, of course, traveling. Every time I get back from wherever, I'm super inspired to do stuff. And obviously this year, travel has been a no-go for us coming from this country anyway, right? So,
Yeah.
right. So, I mean, that's
all right, but
right. Just that.
I will say that the last normal thing I did this year in March was a dress fitting with Ginger and Ingo. And we were all Rashawn, when you talk about the intimacy of fashion, just like three girlfriends hanging out in a studio, fitting a dress and just like chatting and like having fun. And it, now looking back, like it really is a point break of after that, nothing was the same. That really truly is the last fashion-y, like normal experience. Fittings have not been the same since then. Nothing in this industry or world has been the same since. So
that was just this year.
Yeah.
Like, year at this point. It seems like last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, the year isn't over yet.
We needed it though. We needed something to shake this world up. I mean, the animals, did you see the water? The animals were coming back. The water was clear. The sky was clear. Like everybody needed to break, especially Mother Nature.
No smog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mother Nature said, you know what?
Yeah, Mother Nature she has a word to have with us.
Yeah, well, very true. Very, I guess it was like you were saying, Linz, like the pivotal point, because I remember actually, I almost didn't go on my carnival cruise in January because we were going to start working on the Vegas show at my job. So I almost didn't go. I was all like, oh, I can't go because blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I covered for you.
Yeah, that's when you covered for me. Yeah, exactly. And I was so happy that I went because now I feel like cruises won't even be a thing for like, I don't know how long. But I at least got to go to Catalina in Mexico before the world shut down because I would be really upset because I'm like, I didn't even get to have my wedding. So I'm already upset that I didn't get to be a princess.
Yeah, so true.
Oh, yeah, you have to go.
I will so thank you guys all for joining us today. I've really enjoyed our chat and I hope you all have too. Can we just go through really quick and share where we can find each other?
Yeah. So you can find me online. L Royalty Clothing, Lolita Royalty Clothing is my brand. So lroyaltyclothing.com, L Royalty Clothing on Instagram, Facebook, all of those sites. And then for my costuming, it's GNB Cosplay is my whole cosplay account. But you can find me there. So yeah, Bex, because you're on the right of me. So.
Yes, I just have my Instagram. It's Bexzilla Couture, spelled like it sounds. I mostly like post pictures of my dogs and sometimes garments when I have time in between work, but I'm at a pivotal point in my life right now, so I'm kind of dormant in terms of fashion things. So, but I mean, follow me and I'll follow you back because I want to know everybody's things and I want to be able to support you guys too.
Absolutely.
Rashawn, you want to go and shout out your?
Oh yeah. Rashawn Wilson on like social media platforms, mostly Instagram. I'm also on DeviantArt, but Instagram is probably the best place to find me, and it's RASHON.Wilson. And I really think that maybe everybody in the group should like just post their stuff so that we can all follow
So let's
each other.
put it in the chat so everyone can.
Yeah, we'll link to it.
All right, go ahead, Ingo.
So Instagram for me, Fashion Diva Ingo, all one word, Fashion Diva NGO. My website is ingozika.com, which I'll put like in the comments so you can see it. But yeah, you can link to my other brands through the Fashion Diva Instagram.
And Carlo. Go ahead, Carl.
Oh, me? Oh, sorry.
No,
Yep. Plastic Poussey for the Instagram handle. You know, got to keep it regal.
I was like,
Pussy, plastic pussy.
Yep. Old hard shiny plastic.
things out there. There's some great things. I was
Yep.
I have you on Facebook, so I see all the posts, but I was going to your Instagram.
Yep. And then the YouTube channel by the same name, Plastic Poussey on YouTube. You'll find some cute little tutorials here and there. But yeah, those are the two main outlets.
Love it. And Lethia, do you have any social media you would like to share?
I'm currently on hiatus, but I'll be back on Instagram at Lihia Tracy, just the way it looks on the display. That's LIGIATRACY. That's it.
Have you been watching The Social Dilemma?
Get me started.
All right, guys. Well, we won't keep any more of your time. Thank you so much for joining again. It was really lovely to chat with all of you.
Thank you for having us. I'm glad to see
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for showing up and being able to spend your evening talking about work and fashion.